So corporate immigration. So what is corporate immigration? Well, you know, I say corporate immigration, but it's not a legal term. It's a terminology that's commonly used among industry professionals who handle employment-based immigration, non-immigrant, and immigrant visa matters for corporate clients. Corporate immigration, in a nutshell, is I like to think of it as enabling the business, enabling the corporate entity to achieve its business goals through various employment-based immigration benefit requests filed with different government agencies and departments, typically with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, but you have other departments involved, such as the Department of Labor and the Department of State. Now, whichever paper you read, whether it's the New York Times or Wall Street Journal or Washington Post or what have you, suppose there's one easy way to understand corporate immigration is imagine a company in the US and seeking to hire a software engineer, whether it's Canada, Mexico, Spain, or China or India. Or suppose you have a multinational company seeking to move an employee from abroad, Brazil to the US. Suppose the company is seeking to poach a key engineer from a competitor, and that key engineer happens to be a foreign national who requires work visa sponsorship. Well, this is what we're going to talk about today. Now, the other part to this is we're going to be touching on some common visa classifications, but we're also going to try to touch on a program management, because when you have an employer with a sizable, meaningful foreign national workforce, you as the attorney want to be able to provide a cohesive, legally compliant and cost-effective corporate immigration program, design and develop that solution for your client. So one example that I like to use is a backyard example. So I have a small patch that I call a backyard, but in that situation, some homeowners might ask a landscaper to say, hey, in the spring, plant the seeds, plant certain shrubs in certain designated areas, trim the branches, mow the lawn, periodically, but don't do it this method. But, that's sort of the a la carte menu. But if we're talking about program management, we are talking about a situation where you are setting a budget for where the corporate client has a certain budget in mind, they have a certain idea, a certain vision as to how they want these services to be provided. Just here's a budget, this is our vision, just take care of us. That's what corporate immigration program management is. Now, with that out of the way, and let me touch on the statutory framework. First, we've got the INA, Immigration and Nationality Act. This is sort of the foundational statutory framework, and that's been amended through other congressional action over the years. This is, again, the foundation. Next, there's IRCA, Immigration Reform and Control Act. This establishes the employer obligations to review the identity and employment eligibility of its employees. We're probably not going to touch a whole lot on IRCA, and the next one, IRERA, Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of '96. And then next we have the Homeland Security Act. That came as a backdrop to the 9/11. Back then, there was a single agency, INS, Immigration and Naturalization Service, that was responsible for adjudicating immigration benefits, removal or deportation operations, as well as border control. One of the criticisms was that you have a conflict of interest if you have three different missions housed in one agency. So as a result of HSA, those three functions got split up into three different agencies.